Hello beautiful bibliophiles, it's Nektaria. Hope you're having a great day or will have a great rest of the day. I also want to wish you a happy week and an amazing month because it's March 1st. I don't know whether I should be saying it's finally March or when did we get to March already, because honestly from October to now it feels like living it took very long, like it was a long ass period of time, but also looking back to it I can't separate it into many different periods of time where different things were happening. So it feels a bit weird, but that's probably because pandemic, lockdown, stuff like that. Anyways, point is, March is coming, so February is out, so let's talk about my February wrap-up. So in February, I read a total of 5 books, which is as many as I read in January. I hope from March we'll be reading more books each month. Not because I want my wrap-ups to be longer, but because I want to read more books. So yeah, but it was exam season, January and February, so I'm not gonna be hard on myself. And you shouldn't be hard on yourself either, because we read because we feel like it. Again, so the first book I read in February was Resignation of an Angel by Musmi Radhanpara. I read an advanced reader's copy of that. It's coming out March 8th. Mark the date, because it's the best poetry collection she's come out with so far. It's so feminist. Like, if you love feminist poetry, you gotta read this. It's very raw. I think it's the darkest poetry collection she's written so far. I love her writing. I think she's a very underrated young poet out there, and especially Resignation of an Angel was mind-blowing. Like, I was reading it and a lot of the lyrics were haunting me. Like, after I read them I was like, damn, what was that lyric? So smart, so like daring and provocative and just so intriguing. I loved her deep, heartfelt poetry. It was just so good. So I really recommend you mark the date, March 8th, so you can look for Resignation of an Angel in Amazon. It's on Amazon. Also, how gorgeous is that cover? It's so classy, so elegant, so vintage. I'm loving it, and the inside is just as great. Oh my god. Second book I read was Vultures by Lila Bowen. This is the first book in a fantasy series. I've had this book since 2018, so I'm glad I finally got to read it. So this is about Nettie. Nettie lives in this village. There's this Western situation. I knew going in that this is a Western book. I believe the term is Western fantasy book. So I was a bit hesitant on whether I'd like it because it seems quite out of my comfort zone. But I ended up really enjoying the setting. So she lives in this village. Her family is really mean to her. Obviously, being a woman in that kind of society is really not fun. So she disguises herself as a boy to find work, but gets tangled up in all kinds of fantastical, mythological things going on. It's based on a lot of different kinds of mythology. We even have Greek mythology. We have a part where it's kind of a recreation, like a scene is kind of a recreation from Sirens and Odysseus from the Odyssey. I thought that was I think that's my favorite scene from the whole book. I think it was so well done. Anyways, so that is what is happening pretty much in this book. There are all these kinds of half-breeds and breeds and different kinds of monsters, I guess. So yeah, it's really cool. The quest Nettie's in is very intriguing. It's moving quite fast, especially the second half of the book, and it's just really intriguing to see where it's going with it. I think I'm going to continue with the series because it seemed quite intriguing, but I did have to give it 4 stars. Like, I had to take a star off because of the representation. I think it was a bit awkwardly done because Nettie is half black, half native. She's bi, and the part where I was a bit hesitant about how the representation was made was the fact that she's, I guess, non-binary / gender fluid. I don't know what the author was trying to do with that, because there is this author interview at the end of the book, and the author herself describes Nettie as trans, but I don't think that's the right kind of representation for trans. Obviously, I'm really not the one to judge that. I'd really suggest you check out trans reviews for this book, but I read quite a lot of them trying to kind of settle down with my star rating and see what if the representation was good. And a lot of trans people were quite offended by naming Nettie trans, because pretty much the reason why Nettie disguises herself as a man is to not have the struggles of a woman in the society, but also she doesn't identify with female. She identifies more with being a boy, but she doesn't necessarily want to call herself a boy throughout the whole book. So I mean, she's queer, she's questioning her own identity, so that is why the book is quite questioning that itself. But I feel like with calling her trans, with the author calling her trans, she made a mistake, because anyways, I feel like the representation for that part was a bit awkwardly done. I suggest you read it yourself and, have your own opinion on it. And please check out trans reviews of this. Also, the author, to my knowledge, is a cis white woman, but Nettie is half black, half native. So I understand why people would have a problem with a cis white woman writing about a half black, half native woman. So yeah, I suggest you read a lot of reviews by people of color and by trans people before picking up this book. But plot-wise, it's really cool. But big trigger warning for sexual assault as well. It happens frequently in this book. The third book I read brings us to the fact that I made NetGalley this month, which is very exciting. It's such a great way to read new books before their actual release date. It's so cool. And you get to talk with other readers about them, and you get to write reviews about them on NetGalley and wherever else you write reviews. So I just think it's really cool, people. It's really cool. So the first book I read from NetGalley was Lagos is Killing Me by Oloyede Michael Taiwo. I hope I pronounced his name right. And this is a poetry collection. I really enjoyed it. It was such hard-hitting poetry, and focuses on a lot of different subjects that we get from love, heartache, and heartbreak to problems with the Nigerian life, like the everyday hardships people in Africa go through. And I just thought it was really well done. It was really like heart-wrenching, heartfelt poetry, very hard-hitting, very raw at some parts, but also like very important because it tackled on many important issues. We even had some poems about feminism, which was really cool, and about women being able to be themselves and men not having any rights on them. So it was really great. I just really appreciated the plethora of different subjects within the poetry collection and the way Oloyede Michael Taiwo was writing about them. I think like the way he handles language is very expressive of his thoughts, and it was just very beautiful to read. So if you enjoy poetry, I would suggest you check that out. If I'm not mistaken, it comes out March 1st. The next book I read was Back to Classics, and that was a bunch of short stories by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I can't exactly guide you on which collection of short stories I read, because this is a Greek edition that just takes a bunch of short stories from a bunch of different editions, so different collections. So I can't exactly guide you through which collection it is. Most of them are from his collection of short stories, Twice Told Tales, but a lot of them are from other collections too. Yeah, but I loved it so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so cool. I didn't expect to love his writing that much. I've heard he was quite the conservative folk. I want to check more about that, but I just really didn't expect to love his writing as much. I thought it was very well done, very beautiful quotes, and I loved the concepts of his stories, like I thought they were very deeply like psychological and moral, so it was very interesting to see. I'm gonna quickly guide you through opinions I had about different stories. The first story is Wakefield. It's not a spoiler, it's about this guy who decides one day out of a sudden to just disappear from his wife by moving across the street from their apartment, and he just lives there for 20 years and his wife thinks he's missing. So it's very interesting to see whether it's about like his narcissism, whether he wants to see if his wife will miss him, or is it just about that moment where a very, very crazy thought comes in your head and you're like, if I follow that train of thought, it's going to ruin my life and it's going to take me into a very, very weird place. And most of us, like, that thought comes and we're just like, no, that is just my instinct speaking to me, and we don't follow it, but Wakefield did, and where it got him is very interesting. The second story was Earth's Holocaust, which is my favorite story out of those I read in this collection. It's about pretty much people deciding to burn everything. Like, they just start from everyday things to things that represent constitutions, and it's very interesting. It sets the question of whether people will be freed by everything that weighs down the human race if we get rid of everything. It's an interesting concept. I really liked it. Then next was The Minister's Black Veil. This had a more creepy atmosphere to it. Like, it had that aura of death around it. It was pretty cool. It's about this minister who starts wearing a black veil out of a sudden, and everyone in town is like, what is he doing? And for some reason they're very appalled by the black veil, which is very interesting. Then the fourth one was Prophetic Pictures, and that one gave me very much Picture of Oscar Wilde vibes. It's about this painter, and the portraits he paints, people can understand things about their futures. Like, if he makes your portrait, from the expression you have in the portrait, that tells you something that's going to happen to you in the future. So that was very interesting. I really liked that one as well. And then the other five I didn't enjoy as much as the four first ones. Lily's Quest was quite the dark fairy tale-ish story. It was cool, just not my favorite. The Birthmark, oh my gosh. Both the main characters in that one really upset me, but the morality of it was pretty cool. It's about this mad scientist, I guess. He gets married to this woman who is supposedly this very, very gorgeous, apart from a hand-shaped mark that she has on her cheek, and he gets very maniac about like scientifically, medically removing that mark from her, and she's also very submissive to this. She's like, oh yes, my husband, remove my mark if it makes you appalled. Yeah, and it was very, very weird. But yeah, I get the morality of it, that you shouldn't like mess with your imperfections because they aren't imperfections. Like, that's what I wanted to get from it. That's what I got. If Mr. Hawthorne meant something else by it, I don't know, but that is the moral I wanted to get. To wear Lady Eleanor's Mantle. That felt like it was longer than it should be, but it was cool. It's about vanity. You just shouldn't have a big idea of yourself, because the kind of things that happened in Lady Eleanor's Mantle happened. The Wives of the Dead, I really enjoyed. It's the last one and I really enjoyed it, but I felt like it could have been longer. Like, I felt there was more to write on the story because it was really cool. Last book I read was a Nektaria, Tell Me When You Feel Something by Vicky Grant, which comes out June 12th, so mark the date if it seems interesting to you. It's a YA thriller. It's set in this town where a bunch of teenagers, the main characters in this book, work part-time, I guess you could call it, at this med school as simulation patients, which means they're given a different script like each time, and they get like matching makeup so they can pretend they have a specific illness, and then they're used as simulation patients, which means the doctors have to practice finding out what's wrong with them and how to deal with patients, like how to be kind and talk to patients. So that was a very interesting setting for me. Like, it created a very interesting atmosphere. But the point of this book, like the search in this book, is that one of our main characters, Viv, we start the book with her being in a coma after swallowing a pill at a party, and it's like, who gave her the pill? What kind of pill was it? Did she knew what it was before taking it? What was going on in her life? And we see it through her best friend's eyes as well. Some of them seem to have some issues with her. Why? What did she do? What happened to her? It's very interesting. If it sounds intriguing to you, I suggest you go check it out. I thought the plot was quite intriguing. Big trigger warning for sexual assault. And no, but pretty much mostly sexual assault. So I enjoyed it plot-wise. What I didn't like about it was, okay, I think I've come to the conclusion that every character in YA thrillers is going to be unlikable. Like, if there is a YA thriller with likable, kind people in it, I'd like to know, because I haven't found one yet. So yeah. But what did get to my nerves about the unlikable characters wasn't how unlikable they were, because I felt like it was about sympathizing with them without, like, sympathizing for them without especially liking them. But some things they were saying were just so upsetting. They went from cringy to problematic. Like, they'd mention some stuff like about relationships or about mental illnesses, and they'd be quite insensitive. Like, they show a big lack of sensitivity on these things. I don't know if it's about making them unlikable on purpose, but yeah, that really upset me, so I had to get 1 star away from that, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. But yeah, if you just want a YA thriller, you could check it out. That was my very messy February wrap-up, but I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me what was your favorite book that you read in February down in the comments. Hopefully in the March wrap-up we'll have more books to talk about. But anyway, I just want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day, week, and month of March, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye.